him. He doesn't have either of his two AD carry mids to play. So that's kind of his extra win condition, and that has been noted by RNG, so will not be on the table for FoFo. Skarner makes his way through the draft for the first time in this series, though, and Wayward will just get himself that big old tanky tank in the top side.
It's going to be answered with a croc, and then Way slams the Viego. Very early Viego lock-in in this draft, but the AP junglers have just been forgotten today.
I think particularly with a lot of the AD champions just not available, like what are you gonna do to unlock them as much? A lot of how we play the Karthus, Lilia, Brand, whatever you name, the Zyra as well, are because you have a Corki or a Tristana in the mid lane, which gives you consistent AD damage, and it allows you to kind of get that pushing lane, which gives you that safety to farm up. We're going to very different style here, though. FoFo does have an AD mid laner in that Jace, but they do have some magic damage now on the table with Abel on Kai'Sa. This and the Ziggs are the two bot lane options which give you magic damage.
So, very much poke by the looks of things for WE with the Jace and what is likely to be an AP Kai'Sa coming on through. Tangyuan toying with the idea of an Ahri. It would certainly work with the Viego to set up these resets, both with the Viego and the Spirit Rush from Ahri as well. Very aggressive stuff from RNG, and honestly, I like it. I like that they're trying to bring this aggression to WE.
Yeah, this early game topside from RNG is really potent. They did play a similar composition not too long ago, and they couldn't quite work this out, even with one or two decent early game plays. Back in the past, Ahri was a Jace counter in lane. I think it was 2017 MSI, if I remember rightly. Ahri was played into Jace quite a lot as a counter back then. Ahri gets early push over the Jace, can cancel his Q. In hammer form, you stop him dashing through that. There are some ways you can win, like, very hard big trades coming through, so FoFo's going to have to respect the mid-jungle duo in regards to that and make sure they don't allow themselves to fall behind too much within the Ahri matchup, while also not dying if you're pushing too hard for it.
I think not dying is always a really solid strategy, generally speaking.
Yeah, I hear that.
If you try and
you
not
don't get
die,
to reset if you don't die. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Like, just survive. And kill. If you can kill them and not be killed, I think you're always off for a good shot there. AP jungler's batted away, and now we look towards Mr. Huanfeng down in that bottom side. Varus slammed immediately.
So Varus wins lane pretty hard versus the Kai'Sa. You have really good ability to play through poke Varus in this kind of game right now as well, particularly if you're trying to play at range against the Kai'Sa and the Jace. It allows you some really good ability to chunk out their HP bars before they manage to get those big dive plays later in. So, what are we going to get through? Heng going to return to a bit of a classic for him, the Poppy Jungle, something which he's played for WE plenty of times in the past. We assume that's going towards that. We have seen, of course, Mickey X play the Poppy support quite a lot, and that should be able to stop a lot of the topside dashes on the side of RNG if played well, and then extra engage comes through from Mark on the right.
I was going to say, it could still be a flex and the Rel could go jungle, but no, look how they massacred my boy. Rel, no longer flexible into the jungle. That will just be a support, and it's answered by Ming's Alistair. An absolute classic from Ming. It's one of his best champions, and it's great into the Rel.
So, looking at both of these compositions, WE have largely better team fight engage options because they have the Rel, and they have the Skarner, and they have, you know, the follow-up from the Kai'Sa from long range, and even Poppy can, of course, add into that. Whereas on the other side, you really just have the Alistair in terms of team fight engage, and then some opportunistic pick tools. But that's where the game changes. RNG have that opportunistic pick. They can have the Renekton on a flank, you can have the Ahri and the Varus looking for their own CC, setting up the Viego and the Ahri for reset. So, I think a lot of this game comes through RNG. Can they accelerate that top side of the map and get to the point where those playmaking tools become game-ending tools? Or will we get to the point where that Rel and the big follow-up of the Kai'Sa afterwards can just remove RNG from the map?
Plenty of damage in this game, that is for sure. I'm excited for this RNG comp. Honestly, resets galore, lots of playmaking ability, lots of ability to bring the fight to WE and try and force things. On the opposite side though, WE with a Rel there, with a Poppy there as well, looking to deny that opportunity and get poke damage out. It feels a little bit like a role reversal of what the comps were in game number 1.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a range advantage on one of these teams for Team WE, but can they hold that range advantage? There are definitely tools to break open the game, whether that is before you even reach that 5v5 or elsewhere. So we've talked a little bit about the comps, but at the end of the day, it's got to come down to hands on keyboards, feet on the rift. See who walks away with that game number 3.
欢迎来到英雄联盟。
你组装。
敌军还有30秒到达战场，碾碎他们。
Gio's ring through. RNG versus WE. Game number 3. And the winner... I was going to say the winner goes to Group A. That's not true. If WE wins, they can still go to Group A. RNG, I'm sorry, guys. You go to Group B no matter what. But an opportunity to play spoiler. Tangyuan, don't face check it, man. Don't do it. Mark flashes to find the knockback and forces the flash out from Tangyuan.
And forces him to start Charm, if I saw that correctly as well. So Tangyuan going to lose a lot of the level 1 pressure you expect against that Jace. And now suddenly Tangyuan picking out this topside jungle topside snowball champion alongside his jungler and top laner. Won't have that level 1 platform, which we expect from that.
Really, really cheeky stuff from WE, but I love it. And especially when you're on the rel, you've got the Hex Splash. It's really not that big of a deal to not have that flash available for the early laning phase. So really, really smart stuff from WE. Setting Tangyuan behind, setting up FoFo to dominate. And, you know, let's be honest, the story of this split has been a lot about FoFo being the big carry. There's that charm you talked about, but FoFo happy to take these trades.
Yeah, Tangyuan not in a great position there. Typically, level 1 auto W auto electrocute controls your laning phase, and it's been one of the reasons why Ahri has been so strong since her last iteration, released in 2022. Mark going to get cancelled out of that combo there, so that's going to fall apart. But, you know, RNG, they need to accelerate topside. This is the way that they win this game. The Renekton bullying out the Skarner early, that won't last for forever. Skarner is just a more useful champion later into the game. You have the Way, Viego looking for resets, and Tangyuan looking to set up for that too. If you're already, you know, falling behind in that mid lane matchup, it does dent a little bit the hull of that platform.
Certainly does. Renekton missing the days of Gore Drinker, where you were actually a bit useful still in the late game. It's a little while ago now that was in play. But Wayward, he's a long way off of getting to the point where Skarner becomes that late game monolith in the team fights. Still, I mean, this is the thing about Skarner, right? You still do pretty well in the early trades, especially once you've got that level 3. Like, the fact that you are this insane tank in the late game with an insane ultimate that can turn a team fight, but also can trade really well in the laning phase. There's a reason he's first pickable.
Yeah, we've seen LPL try different answers to the Skarner. None of them have been totally consistent. We've seen the Twisted Fate win lane, but not always win the team fights. We've seen, well, okay, Rumble's pretty consistent, but Rumble's not fair. Rumble's not fair. Nothing really answers Rumble. But then you also have, you know, the Mordekaiser, which only really works in the hands of someone, well, like Wayward. Wayward's done quite well on the Mordekaiser in the past, and then also, of course, 369, the better player of that champion. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been it. The Renektons come out more recently just because you can maybe early snowball the matchup and get more value out of topside, but as we've seen in some games, again, you need to have really good early games to make the most out of that.
Way is sticking around on the top side. Okay, it does channel the recall. I wasn't sure if they were going to try for a dive onto Wayward. It would have been a little nerve-wracking against a Skarner. He is sticking around. They're going to try for this one. There's no minion wave.
Maybe just looking to try... Well, you can't even stop the back. You don't have that much range potential. Way's going to take turret shots to stop the back with the Spectral Maw, but now he's quite low HP. Whoever tanks aggro is going to be in a bit of trouble now because Way's lost HP.
There's no level 6 for Juice either, but they're going to try and make it happen. Cannon underneath the tower. Juice flashes. Chain stuns come on through. Reset is there. Juice does take the shot, and it's a 1-for-1, but Wayward loses some minions.
Wayward loses a bit of XP, but it's not exactly what you wanted. Juice doesn't get the kill himself, so in the individual matchup, Wayward still gets more gold with the kill compared to the assist. Way walks away with extra gold compared to Heng, but in this top lane matchup, it doesn't change a huge amount when it comes to that. RNG would really try to play towards the top side snowball, which we've asked for them, but already mid lane, not quite what they would have wanted, and top lane dive also not quite as clean as they would have asked for.
Still nice to get the gold into Viego's pocket, though, you know? Like, Viego, one of these champions that if you don't get ahead, you really are just completely useless. So, Way, I think we'll still be happy with how that play turned out. It's just whether or not Juice is happy with how that play turned out.
You don't know the secret tech of Viego, which is you give all the gold up to one person and then you kill them late game and you steal their body and all their items. That's the real tech when it comes to Viego.
Yeah, I don't know if Skarner's the greatest target for that because I'm not sure you're ever killing him to get that, get those items.
Look, Viego players' minds, they are an anathema wrapped within an enigma. You truly can't understand the depth of their playstyle.
Do you know what?
Okay,
I don't want to understand. I'm okay without.
Some things are better off not being known. All the same. Hovering over towards the bot side, talked a lot about top lane and top side, rather, in regards to the snowball potential when we go down towards this bot side. Though we did say from draft, typically the Varus dominates lane versus the Kai'Sa. Not really happened, though, so far. Abel managing to survive out of that one. And, well, okay, enough about the bot side. Back to top lane we go.
Yeah, we get to watch Skarner versus Renekton. They swing around and nobody dies. But wait! In the meantime, he's going to grab himself a Drake, which is a pretty nice little pickup. Heng pathing towards that top side, but it's possible RNG could content the Grubs as well. It's not like Heng has done it simultaneously. FoFo going to have to dodge this charm. The side steps are not going to land, but there's Heng to save the day with the steadfast presence.
But it's still flash away from the Jason. I think you're absolutely right. RNG should absolutely look to contest this top side objective early because, again, they have the level 6s now onto their solo laners. Renekton very, very powerful with the first couple of Dominuses of the game. Dominuses? Domini? There's probably a plural conversation out there. Dominuses, we'll go with that one. It's like the plural of octopus. There's
so,
like,
do you want to know the logic on when it's I versus us's?
Yes, but I can't promise I'll follow.
There is not. There is absolutely none. It's totally random. I looked this up before. Whether or not it's us's or I often is interchangeable as well. Often they're both correct.
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I know that Octopus does have about 8 accepted plurals. That's going to be a cleanse away from Abel, so nothing coming through that side. And not even going to quite able to cancel that back there onto Mark either. Right, that was educational. I appreciate that much. I learned something.
Oh, that's okay. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for random etymology. That's my actual title on my contract is random etymology guy of the LPL, which is it really sucks because that's pretty much the only etymology I know. So I'm really out of my depth.
I told you one earlier about
CV, okay?
I told you that one earlier about tea and chai as well. Which you've got one extra one to work with now. We'll work through it. We'll teach you all alongside us as we go through these games. And when they're a bit slower paced like this, we do get a brief moment of pause to occasionally look towards it.
Maybe the real etymology was the chai we teed along the way. Juice has a chance to set something up here. Wayward does have flash available. Late hit, and Wayward is suspicious. He knows something's going on, but Way's going to try and make it happen anyway. There's the flash, stun, followed by swing around to the big old sword, and that's a reset. That's Way grabbing his second kill of the game.
Way gets himself second kill of the game, as you said, and that means the topside snowball starts to pick up a little bit more steam. Dragon, of course, not available on the bottom side. No objectives to be traded elsewhere. It is just early game gold bought for that play. And RNG very, very happy to get that one over. Way, you were mentioning this earlier in one of the earlier drafts, thinking, well, when you think of Way, you think more about the Wukong and a couple of those picks. His Viego has been historically pretty strong too. You think about the MSI 22 run when Viego Ahri was the meta. RNG with Xiaohu and Wei was so good at that combo. And it's been a while since RNG can think back to those moments. They have been on the downswing, but looking for their first series win, maybe it is all right to look back to some of those classics. You have the level 6, of course, available for both these. The XP advantage for Juice, which means they can go forwards and really just wreck through Wayward, who's not had a great series on weak side so far. Has to be said, I praised him a lot in spring. I think he had a fantastic start to his tenure on Team WE, but as it stands this summer, in this series at least, Wayward has left a lot to be desired.
He certainly has. The Skarner, one of those picks as well that, you know, it's quite forgiving later on, but the thing is, one thing we've seen is we often talk about these tanks and like how you can get away with an early disadvantage because late game you scale into things and blah, 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 right? But quite often we're seeing a lot of games decided right now at like the sort of 25 to 30 minute mark when Dragon Souls are happening, when Baron is up. And the front line often is only on like 1.5, 2 items, at most 3. At 3 items, yeah, you start to become invincible. But at the 2 item mark, especially when the enemy carries do get ahead, it can become really, really difficult to be that front line that you have to be.
Absolutely, because you know the job of any front line is not it's multifaceted, right? The first part is take a long time to die or just don't die. But while you're doing that, you need someone else to get value. Mark is gonna eat up some poke down there and will be completely fine. Just wondering whether Varasalt would come through CC chain. Not to be, but you're absolutely right. If you fall behind enough and the carries get really far ahead, you start failing at that job, being able to buy space for your carries. You just end up taking a load of damage and dying before they can even get into position, you know?
I love the way Wei is playing this game and the way RNG are playing towards Wei this game as well. You know, the kills in the top side, moves in as it's him and Huanfeng only, sharing those plates in the bottom side as well, making sure that they're getting maximum gold into this Viego. Wei really is the main character right now for RNG. Charmans for Tangyuan onto FoFo. Tangyuan makes an argument for main character himself.
And he's done something, of course, I have to apologize every time this comes up. As an RE main, I feel obligated. Tangyuan needs to snowball, has that Dark Seal, wants to fight right now, force the flash out. Exactly what they should be looking for. Tangyuan wants to get himself onto that kill board. If this RE can also get ahead, then I think RNG is set up for success. Setting up for the Dragon, Mark's on a flank unseen right now. Do W really want to take this fight? I feel this is a dangerous point in the game to be facing up against RNG, especially against those resets from the Blade of the Rune King on the Ruined King.
Ming is waiting on that blast cone. Little does he know, he's on vision right now. Abel going to be forced away. Here comes the Poppycopter to try and punt someone. Ming is gone, and that's an opportunity for WE to burst down this Drake and get themselves that neutral objective.
Very surprised that RNG couldn't get themselves a snap engage onto one side of the fight. I feel like maybe they could have just gone onto FoFo, try and look to blow his flash, or just outright kill him. He was left isolated there, and RNG wait a little long to pull the trigger. Feels like this is the point in the game where they're really strong. When they get that ability, first item on the Viego, who's disproportionately strong for this point in the game. But WE, bide their time, don't fall into the trap, don't overextend and give an easy engage option over to RNG. And the longer they bluntly just survive at this point in the game, the better it is for them. They don't want to be fighting into RNG too haphazardly right now with those threats of those resets around.
I think one of the best things for WE there was Renekton wasn't involved at his strongest moment in the game, but he will be involved in this one. Dominus behind enemy lines with the Hex Gates as well. Dives into the mix, but Heng denies his entry, and it's way to go down instead. Shut down for FoFo, and Juice not long for the world as he tries to escape over the wall. Here the Skarner all dodged by Tangyuan, who gets a reset of his own. It turns into an absolute scrap between the two teams as a Hex Gate back out to safety for FoFo. 4 groups for 2, a kill apiece. Tangyuan
has flash.
Abel dodges it. Ming doesn't get dodged though. Flash away from the arrow from Huanfeng.
So RNG, they don't have their combo set up easily enough around the grubs. They do manage to fight back, but again, this kind of even-ish fight is much better for WE than they should expect. Juice, wall stunned.
Pushed underneath the tower, and Heng might just get himself solo killed. No! FoFo slides in from the side and grabs credit. And honestly, Heng will be happy about that. Bonus kill on the mid laner, yes, please.
Now things start to become a lot more questionable for RNG. They should have been steamrolling through this fight on top side, but they don't quite manage to get themselves set up for the grubs. You can see, as this fight starts, where is Huanfeng at the start of this? And also, where's Tangyuan? Where's the Ari amongst all this? Has himself that, you know, that claim to being a main character if you can get yourself the big snowball is not here for a good 4 or 5 seconds at the start of this. The Viego goes down, no reset potential after that point. And yes, you do take back another kill or two on this side, but it's just not really what RNG would have wanted. They should have blown out this fight.
Oh, Bush Bait comes on through, Mark the target here, but he does survive for the time being, and Ming, walking away with his own life, holds on to his unbreakable will there. Or in fact, actually, I think it was on cooldown. But I'm going to call that discipline. From disciplined by using it in the previous team fight. It's going to be RNG on the Herald once again off the back, chunking out Mark.
Mark's got to be careful now. Next time the charm lands onto anyone, it can be dangerous. Here we go.
Wayward not tanky enough just yet. There we go. Reset does come on through for Way. Looks for Abel next if a charm can land, but I think it's on cooldown. And RNG, another pick comes on through. They could go back to the Herald once more.
Yeah, you can see the difference when you have the Ari there to help set up the picks from the Fog of War, as opposed to when they're not. Tangyuan wasn't there for the Might fight, the Grub fight rather, but is there for the Herald, picks something up, and that's exactly what RNG would have wanted. WE, I think they're still just within acceptable bounds of gold deficit as it stands. You're expected to fall behind somewhat against this topside comp, but anything more than this, I think it becomes a bit of an issue. As it stands right now, you can probably just hold on. You don't, I mean, the Herald's gonna go over to waste. You're not gonna be able to deny that one. RNG now taking some turrets. If they can have a good Herald charge in mid lane with the 4 grubs, maybe that will blow open the game to the point where RNG can genuinely snowball away with this into their first series win.
I like the, I think you slightly misspoke there, but I like the term might fight for the second grub spawn.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome, because you are fighting over mights if the two teams are there. One team will have more grubs than the other from the
Might
first
Fight
round.
Night? Could you imagine Might Fight Night? That'd be fantastic. Production get. We should get ourselves a graphic for that at some point.
In the meantime, though, as we're chatting nonsense, the tier 2 on the top side is being pressured by Wei and Tangyuan, and with those 4 mites, or grubs, sorry, on the side of RNG, they nearly finish off the tower. Not quite able to do the job, though.
Yeah, turns out, mites and grubs, they feel a little bit interchangeable when you're fighting for one and it provides the other, and kind of end up in the same area of your brain. So, RNG, one big thing they've ended up doing is after they took the top lane turret and after they ended up winning that Herald fight, they dropped just a couple of wards at important points. You can see there's a ward quite close to one of the jungle entrances, very close to the base gates around that mid lane, and you can see some extra wards kind of littered around. If they can keep that up, that's really, really important. We're getting to the point now where RNG are looking to go forwards very aggressively. Interesting to me is Tangyuan's going towards a full Banshee second, trying to maybe trying to outplay the Poppy W and saying, look, someone's going to dash into the Poppy. If I can use that W to get myself some extra playmaking potential, that could be worth it. Taking down the mid lane turret with the threat of that snowball, and that's an easy turret take for RNG.
Really nice stuff. This is going to be 2 turrets taken by RNG. We saw it in game 1. We're seeing it again in game 2. RNG in control of the map. They get
where you going with this, buddy?
Charge. Ming is just going to use it as a taxi to get over to the Drake. The wait is currently starting up. I feel like in this series, it has taken us literally 4 weeks, but maybe RNG are starting to show signs of the team that they used to be.
It's a long shot from that. This is the thing. RNG, they've found themselves a current run of form. Game 1, strong early game. Couldn't quite close it, but they walked away. Well, couldn't close it cleanly, rather. But they did manage to walk away with that one. If we start seeing more organized early games from them, then yeah, maybe we do have to look towards the next stage of the tournament and say, okay, Juice looks good individually. This team seems to be meshing well. Maybe there is something to build here. I need to see this for a couple of series in a row now. Maybe in Group B, maybe that's where, against some of the other teams which are struggling, we can see whether they've started to find something more special about this particular roster.
I just want to clarify what I said there, because I'm not trying to say RNG are bad. That's not what I was. That's definitely not what I was trying to say.
At Joe on Twitter, you know, say like, man, RNG, they're back there.
Yeah, just get on Twitter, flame me, but also click the follow button if you will. I'd appreciate that. No, I'm not trying to say RNG are back, but what I am trying to say is, Wei looking pretty decent today, Ming looking pretty decent today. Those are the players that I have been feeling like we have seen a lot more from in the past when they were winning back-to-back MSIs, you know. Didn't feel like we've been seeing those players on the stage more recently. Today does feel a little bit more like them back in form, you know?
And that's really important.
Or at least closer to.
Yeah. I mean, it's always going to be... Look, RNG have been really bad in groups, so anything of a positive sign is something which we both welcome. I think that fans of the league should welcome, because RNG with all of these big names, would be so cool to see these players even close to being back in form. The fact that they've had themselves some good games today, hopefully that can be the start of something a little bit more. For WE, it's a bit unfortunate that it's happening against them, because they wanted to be cleanly 2-0ing this, getting themselves to a point where, like, yes, we're just definitely through with that 3-3 scoreline. Would have meant that if LGD lose in any scoreline later, they would have just seen themselves through to the Ascension group. But they have to get through at RNG, which is, again, as you were just saying, found more than they've done in groups so far.
It's not saying a lot, but it's still a win. We take those. Abel going towards that AP Kaiser build. I do just want to quickly point out, since we've not really mentioned it on the cast just yet, this is Huanfeng going for the on-hit version of Varus, which I totally agree with when you've got a Rel and a Poppy and a Skarner on the enemy team. Somebody's got to get through those health bars, and Viego will be able to do a bit of work, but let's be honest, that's mostly going to be down to Huanfeng trying to burn through the enemy there. So the on-hit version, everyone, you know, when Lethal Tempo got removed, I think Varus was one of the big champions that people said was going to be unplayable as on-hit. Honestly, it only took like 2 weeks of LPL for us to start seeing on-hit Varus again.
So it's really strange to put things in perspective for Varus, because he was something like worldwide 87% presence in spring, and now he's 57% or something like that. It's still 57% presence. A lot of that has been poked, and we've seen much less of the on-hit for both him and Kalista, because Kalista, of course, used to be one of those big things too. I think the big change with Press the Attack still works out for your damage numbers very, very well, but having extra stuff like Lifesteal double stacking or your Terminus later into the game, stacking up easier as well because of the extra attack speed, that's where things kind of fell off for the on-hit variants. It makes it much harder to get the extra utility, which can make you much tankier or much more sustainable throughout the game. But in this game, as you said, completely the right choice, much better at tank killing. We'll have to see whether Huanfeng can find himself in the pocket, stood behind someone like Ming, getting himself with that low attack range, low mobility carry, but doing so much damage if someone's pinned in front of him.
Tier 2, going to be taken by RNG. Slow and steady wins the race, it would seem. And to be honest, with these drafts, I would have expected the slower the game was, the more it would favour WE, but right now it's a 4,000 gold lead for RNG. Might be able to stop some recalls from WE here, but the Hex Gates mean that everybody's going to get out of dodge all right on this one. It's a minute until that Drake comes up though, Nymeara. This is an important one for RNG.
It is, because it feels like right now they are very much in their point of power, and they're against a team which hasn't quite hit theirs. You don't have the tier completion on Jace or the Skarner. Of course, Skarner builds up that Fimble Winter from the Winter's Approach, which is a big power spike, and of course the Muramana coming from Jace means he does a lot more damage at that completion as well. This next Dragon will be the only fight you have left realistically where those items won't have been completed before you get the W upgrade coming through from Abel as well. Once he completes that Nash's Tooth, he might, I don't know how much gold he sat on, I don't think he's going to complete that, almost certainly not before the next Dragon. So RNG, point of power, they want to run away with this. WE on the other side, I doubt they should really contest, but you can't give up too much for free. This is the problem. RNG, they're just taking inner turrets, you're kind of just letting them take stuff across the map, and there's so many wards being put onto their inside jungle. How long realistically can they just sit back and wait?
And in the meantime, RNG is starting to threaten towards Baron. Lots of darkness in that side of the map right now. Scryer's Orb will spot out the fact that RNG didn't start the objective. Flank coming out from Juice, looking for Mark here, but good positioning from him. He'll get out of dodge. Mid prio for RNG, and they can return into the rivers, either top side or bot side, but it looks like in the meantime, Way starting that Drake off, and WE not going to contest at all.
I think later into the game we can look at Mark for those big killer engages, but with the Banshees right now, with Ming being really tanky, I think it's really hard for WE to find huge, big engages. This poke coming through from FoFo, blowing the spell shields, getting a little bit of HP damage, maybe that can work out for them with their range advantage. Abel doesn't have the W upgrade, but can still help with that one. Dragon goes over easily to RNG. They get themselves onto Soul Point, and now we get to see whether they return to side lanes. Maybe they can try and take down that bot lane inner turret. They've taken all the other turrets outside the base from WE.
WE trying to set up a trap in river there. FoFo over the wall with the engage from Mark and Heng, but RNG don't walk into it. And in the meantime, Juice pushing yet more waves underneath the tower in the side lane. You can see a 60 CS advantage is built up for him by being in this side lane, while Wayward is trying to be a part of these team plays that are happening elsewhere. Really, honestly, I'm quite impressed by Juice overall, considering this is a brand new player on RNG. I think he's had a pretty decent day for himself.
You know, the first time we saw him, I believe, was against Bin. You don't really get a good example of how players are going to play, like similar to Huanfeng and OMG. His first game was against Knight. What do you do in a situation like that? You sit there and think, well, okay, they're against one of the best players in their roles. That was back in spring for Huanfeng and OMG, but and of course he played again just the other day against Scouts on LG, and that's 2-1 defeat, sadly for them.
In the 2-0 win for OMG.
Oh yeah. You know, if that had happened, it would have sent our Rare Atoms through into the Ascension group. That's how close that game got as well.
I'm kind of disappointed, actually, that the Rare Atom didn't make it. I feel like that would have been so more exciting, personally.
It would have been so dramatic.
LNG literally limping into the upper group.
Yeah, when it comes back to Juice, I mean, when you play against Bin, you know, yeah, Ghost, of course he's going to get himself a difficult situation against one of the best players in the role worldwide right now. Juice against Wayward has done absolutely more than fine, ran away with the winning matchups, and yes, he got a lot of jungle attention in this game, doing completely fine at his role so far. Need to see if he can keep that into the late game team fights. It gets harder to play the Renekton against the Skarner the later the game goes, just because your champion is just not as kitted out for the late game team fights as your opposing number. Oh, that's a wall stun!
Oh, snap engage and a half. Tangyuan just gets annihilated, slammed against the wall and finished off. And now WE suddenly, they wake up, they're on the map and they're looking at Baron.
And they absolutely should do. They have the 30-second death timer. One of the big parts of the pick combo is gone. How much damage they got onto the Baron, they can look to turn off of it.
It's confirmed Tangyuan was a side character. He's been killed off by the Writers, but WE looking to write a victory here. Mark on a flank. It's a good engage from Ming here, but outnumbered as WE charge through the front line, but they're getting taken apart themselves. RNG are winning a 4v5 right now. I don't know how they're making it happen, but they are making it happen. Wayward goes in, knocked asunder as Juice gets onto the backline. Abel will fall, and RNG make magic happen.
Oh, we haven't seen it for all of summer, but where there's a will, there's a way. The Viego resets, win the fight for Royal Never Give Up. And WE looking like they found themselves that perfect pick to start things off. Fall in the ensuing fight. Baron goes over to RNG, and WE, they are now the ones which have to stare down what could be a killer blow in this series.
LGD are watching this series with bated breath. If WE lose, LGD go through to the upper group. Ming denies the engage from Wayward.
And you can see that Mark is trying to just force things off, but he dies way too quickly. When you give up a kill to the Viego, you have to ask yourself, how good are their basic abilities? Rel's really good, Poppy's really good, and giving that extra ability to get those heartbreakers through means that's huge damage from Way. The main character of this game determines the fight.
Abel getting a little bit caught there, went too far forwards, thought he had more space than he had. Way and Juice both getting onto that backline. Way able to finish the job, get the reset, and take over the rest of the fight. Wayward having a really tough game for himself at 1 and 5 on the Skarner. And we are in dangerous territory for WE. For any WE fans out there, they're on a 3-series loss streak right now, and they might just turn it into 4. They might just lose to all other 3 teams in the group. They might be the one win that RNG can get onto the standings.
However, worth noting, that's an objective boundary mid lane that'll help them claw back some gold. The carries from WE are still in a strong point of power, even though it's, you know, a 1,000 gold lead. For the Varus, the Kaiser has that W upgrade, but the base is getting shredded. This should just end up at an inhibitor. They're not wave clearing.
Where on earth are WE? They're trying to go for this straight that's up in 15 seconds, but RNG take an inhib turret in the meantime. Wayward now clearing in the base with no TP, and they've got a flank on WE. This is beautiful from RNG. FoFo, the target here, but first kill does go in the direction of WE, and Huanfeng is caught out of position. Suddenly, it flips once again, and WE are in the driver's seat, looking for a slow from Wayward as he tries to close the gap once again. Tangyuan still has another blast of his ultimate. Charm goes wide, but WE should secure themselves a Drake.
Wait, bot lane! He's teleporting bot lane. Juice is going to get himself the inhib, and you're going to see Tangyuan pushing mid lane as well. They're going to try and end the game. WE, you need to reset.
I don't think he can end the game right here. Drake goes the way of WE. Juice just not really on a split push champion. He'll return to the rest of his team, but RNG in the meantime break open the mid lane inhibitor tower as well, on top of getting a Nexus tower.
I mean, it's hard to forget here, folks. RNG still have that Baron buff. WE can't stop any of those kills, those retreating members, rather. So it's going to be, what, a tower in the bot side. It's going to be a tower in the mid lane. It's going to be an inhibitor down, and then one exposed in mid lane. Despite, you know, WE getting the dragon and stopping the soul coming through from RNG, they still get crushed in regards to the monetary value. Big difference between this fight and the last one. Pretty easy to guess this one. One has resets, one has none. Wade, the main character of the last fight, instantly shut out of this one. He doesn't have something like a Guardian's Angel for this fight. Yes, Tangyuan manages to get one back and kill FoFo for his first death of the game, but without that Viego, you can't seriously team fight beyond that point. He's so much of the damage from RNG.
Massive that Heng gets an ult onto both Juice and Ming, right? Just denies so much of the CC and the setup for this Viego. Really, really nicely played there by Heng from WE, but ultimately, they got the Drake. it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. One Hex Drake is not going to be enough to turn this game around. And RNG still managed to find more out of the play. The 7,000 gold up, and they are on the cusp of playing absolute spoiler in this series and in this group. After going 0-5 the final day for them, could be the very best day of the group stage.
So WE down in gold, but they do have strong carries. We mentioned that before the brackets. Around that last dragon, FoFo, strong poke, Abel might just be able to carry this late game. Void Staff now in as well, can cut through even Juice's Spirit Visage on that Renekton. So can the carries of WE find themselves similar late game fights to even game one? Remember, they lost game one, but those carries of FoFo and Abel still did late game damage. They'll need to do so again.
I just want to point out, Tangyuan and FoFo are exactly even in gold. How often do you see that at 30 minutes into the game? It's totally irrelevant, but I just think that's cool. Baron, not up for another minute and a half. A lot of posturing around the neutrals, trying to get vision control, but nothing up for a little while just yet. But RNG still very much in control of the map. FoFo going to move down to that bottom side, deal with these super minions, and try and get this map a little bit more organized for WE.
Big items coming back on the next back as well. Death's Dance for Wei. I feel like this should have been a Guardian's Angel, you know? Guardian Angel, because if Wei gets bursted out, I think the team fight effectively ends. I do think the Viego resets are needed at this point. It's getting close to that point, especially if FoFo and Abel are not the ones first dying on the other side. There is a GA on Huanfeng. That definitely helps. I feel like, because WE have themselves a very bursty team comp where you have the Assassin Kaiser diving into the backline, does need to be fast fights. Heng out.
Heng forced out of the play there. That's his flash on cooldown now, which is not the biggest deal on Poppy, as you do have the Hex Flash, but if it comes to smite fights, not having that instant flash could be big. WE, again, it's these small advantages that RNG keep finding.
I think they can be able to, they can claw back some of that advantage because they do have big poke on Jace, they have the W upgrade on Abel. If they can hit them, it changes things. That's actually going to be a turn back from Ahri, though, as FoFo eats poke against the lower range Ahri. RNG firing back and keeping WE in their base.
Somebody's got to go down and deal with these super minions. It's going to be Wayward, nominated by his team to do exactly that. Luckily, the Skarner does have a bit of percentage damage, so can get through those supers without too much trouble. But mid-prio means RNG can move over and start this one. Two-man on the Baron while the rest of the team tries to play in deep vision. Wayward TP's up. RNG, they've got a TP out. They'd be happy with this one. That's a Poppy ultimate, though, and immediately everyone dives in. Impale across the team of RNG, and WE still going strong. Abel trying to carry, but Tangyuan still alive, and the recess starts to come through on the side of RNG. They might just have done it. That's almost an ace in the side of RNG. FoFo sent packing an RNG looking for the game.
It's just FoFo alive. Can he wave clear? There's one Nexus turret left. There's a super mini wave in bot side. RNG, I think they found their first series victory.
Against all odds on their final series, RNG managed to redeem themselves and get a win on the board. They will not tie OMG at 0-6. They find their victory and they knock WE. Whoa, no, the inhib respawn. There's 8 seconds until Heng is back up. Mark has just respawned. I don't think the damage is there though. Abel's not up for another 10 seconds. The Nexus will fall. WE are knocked out of Group A.
They will go down into the lower group, and LGD will qualify regardless of the result of the second series of the day to the Ascension group, Group A, where all the winners of each group face off to see who truly is the best and get themselves in contention for playoff spots. Team WE, what a tragic end to this group stage, looking like they could be a top 4 team, but we said that in spring, they fell out of contention there. They do so again in summer. RNG, I suppose it's a little too late to call this like a truly momentum building win for them, but it is something to go through into that lower group for Group B, the Nirvana group, as it's being called as well, where they face off against the lower teams from each group. This was not a bad series from them. I think they had good early games. I think they had much better playmaking than they did before, and I think particularly Wei had a great series to buoy the hopes of the RNG hopefuls.
What a series from RNG. What a series to find yourself with a win in the end.